Hi, a young man is born with a strange medical condition that forces people to die as soon as they look at his face. But by chance he meets the love of his life. The movie begins with a young man named Max talking to his psychiatrist and telling him that he wished he was normal like other people, and we learn that his entire face is covered with gauze because Bush Jimin was born in an unnatural way to the point that he could kill anyone just by looking at his face. But the strange thing is that they died happily. Max killed all the rebels and the doctors as soon as he was born because they saw his face, but fortunately his mother and father are the only people in the world who do not. They die when they see his face, and the reason why people die is that they have a hormonal surge as soon as they see Max's face. As why his family isolated him in a small city and decided to educate him at home and isolate him from the world. But this made him feel lonely, and he continued to spend all his time embroidering. The psychiatrist does not believe his story. He asks Max to remove the gauze from his face. At this time, we see Max's father and father in front of the psychiatric treatment room and hear the sound of his shower. When they enter the room, they discover that the doctor died after seeing their son's face. After a while, the police arrive at the place and he tells them that next time they will arrest Max if I will cause the death of anyone. At this time, Max sees a brick on the floor, so they take him home. After that, they arrive home and they all get to know each other. They ask Dan, Max's only friend, to register Max on the dating app so that he can meet a girl and live his life normally. Of course, he does not like this. Max, after they finish dinner, Max asks his friend to hit him with a knife to disfigure his beautiful face so he can live his life normally without being a danger to people. Of course, his friend refuses at that time. Max continues to provoke him until he hits him. After that, he goes to the hospital with his family, and his mother reads in the news that they are looking for families. They are able to host exchange students at home, and his mother likes the idea of bringing a new friend to her son at home. But Max, of course, objects and goes to get a magazine to read. He sees a beautiful girl named Alex taking the last magazine from the shelf and giving him the magazine so he can read it. They continue to talk and get to know each other until he goes to Dr. Dan. He makes a surprise for his friend and makes an appointment for him, and Dan goes to sit with them for a while. Then he walks away, and the situation becomes very embarrassing for Max, and the girl is surprised because he is hiding his face from her. So Max has a handkerchief embroidered with her name on it to make her like it, and things are starting to improve between them, and suddenly a bully named Craig comes and sits with them on the table. Starts to get in touch with the girl and sees Max's gauze and bullies him, and their home has a series of points. Max, of course, gets annoyed and decides to walk away. He drops drinks while walking, and when the creek ends, he keeps mocking him and throwing away his embroidered handkerchief, and he keeps pressing it to reveal his face to the point that he just throws it on the table. Fortunately, the employees expel Crick at this time. Max asks the girl to go with him on another date, but she refuses because he is a weirdo. Max feels very frustrated and goes to stand on the bridge to kill himself, but fortunately, Alex sees him and refuses and prefers to talk to him about her dreams and step aside because she distracts him and invites him to come with her to the nursing home. In fact, he goes with her to the home and meets two elderly people named Rosemary and Ezra. Although they suffer from serious and chronic diseases, they love life and cling to it. Then the four of them sit and eat together and spend a nice time with each other. They learn that Esther has written a book and her dream is that she gets rid of him before she dies, but it is difficult for her because she suffers from Alzheimer's, and after they finish, Alex goes and brings Max home, and Max asks her to meet again, but she refuses. At night, Max goes to sit with Dan and asks Max not to give up hope, and he searches for Alex everywhere, but Max does not know her full name is because he searches for her account, Acre. They advise him to go to the places where she appears to see her that day. Max makes a handkerchief and scribbles a picture of his body on it. He goes to ride the bus the next day, and Bella finds Alex waiting at the station. Alex is a little cautious at first, but then she agrees to spend the night. He has the rest of the day with him, so Beirut is the first thing he needs to go to the store, and he buys a lot of sweets, and he gets into the bathtub with these sweets, and they sit and play together, and Alex tells him that this is her dream for a long time. At that time, Max confesses to her that his face kills people, and in return, Alex confesses to him that she has a rare disease in the blood vessels and the heart, and this is what he does to her. She is allergic to the hormone endorphins, which are the hormone of happiness and emotions, and any feeling of excitement and pleasure will cause her heart to enlarge. And she tells him that she wears a device all the time to control the enlargement of the heart, but she takes an experimental medication to treat her disease, but there are still no direct results. When Max hears her problem, he finally feels that it is not. Wahed and her are very similar, even though their sufferings are different. After a while, they go to watch the movie together, and they have a nice time. At night, they go to Max's house. Alex is very impressed by his embroidery and asks him to make a special design for her. Suddenly, Alex approaches him and takes off Ollie's sunglasses, and at that time, Max is afraid for her, but fortunately, his eyes alone will not be able to kill human beings, and he spends romantic moments together, but then Max's family enters them and he ruins the moment, and of course, they move away from each other quickly. Max's father becomes very happy about what is happening and goes to hug her son, and then he introduces them to Yushin, an exchange student who will live with them at home. She will bring her own cat to live with her. Yushin, a very strange girl who hates gatherings, she spends most of the time alone, even at mealtime. She asks for her own food and goes to eat alone. During this period, Max and Alex's relationship improves more and more, and they spend their time in the nursing home playing with Rosemary and Esther. And one day they decide they go on a camping trip together, and Max's family decides to take Yashin with them. The next day, Max, Alex, Dan, his new girlfriend, and Yoshi go on the trip together. Yashin ignores her and spends most of the time alone, and the rest of the group goes to have a nice time together, and Alex accidentally cuts her hands, so Max cuts off part of his gauze and wraps it around her arms. And at that time, Alex's heart beats fast, and at night it's time for bed, and Alex and Max sleep in the same tent, and then he puts the blanket over them so that no one can see them, and he asks Alex to close her eyes, and she does that, and then he wraps the gauze around her eyes and removes the gauze from his face, and he hears her touch his face, and Max confesses to her that he killed a girl before, when she did and hear the words and opened her eyes and saw his face. After a few days, Alex calls him and learns that she won't be able to meet him today because she needs to help her mother with the housework at this time. Max's father asks him to remove the Christmas tree from the front of the house, so he and Dan go out and remove it. At this time, Yashin smokes a cigarette and, angry with her, throws the cigarette at the tree and swallows it. Dan quickly goes to extinguish the fire and, angry with it, he is in trouble. Kara quickly goes to Beirut to the hospital with Max, and by chance, they meet Alex and her mother in the hospital, and it is clear that she has been lying to them all this time. And you understand that she is at home and the children are going because they say hello to her mother, but Alex stops them and tells her mother that these are just colleagues in the nursing home, and she takes her mother and walks quickly, and the next day, Maxie goes shopping with his father, and they ask how he can be sure that he loves a certain person, but perhaps she does not feel this, so the best solution is for him to confess his love to her directly. On the same day, Maxie goes to meet Alex, and you learn that she had to lie to him because her mother does not like to have friends because she is afraid of her emotional reactions. The only place she is allowed to go is the nursing home because it is a boring place. After a while, they go to the home and learn that Rosemary is dying, and she is currently on the machines because of her condition. She is late, and this thing makes Alex angry because they should have allowed her to die in peace instead of torturing her and putting her in the devices. She asks Maxie to show her his face so that she can die in peace, but he refuses to kill her. Alex gets upset and goes to sit alone, thinking about Rosemary's suffering. At that time, Max changes his mind and goes to Rosemary's. He calls her and removes the gauze from his face, and the first time she looks at his face, she smiles and dies. After this incident, Alex stayed away from Max for no reason and stopped answering his messages. He doesn't know what he did wrong, and his mother and father try to help him, but he fights with them and leaves and walks away and goes to sit with Dan. He learns from him that there will be a school party this month, and he offers Maxie to come with him to the party to change the atmosphere, but Maxie has a bad temper and does not want to go anywhere. Dan takes Max's mobile phone and sends a message to Alex and offers her to go to the party with him, but she does not respond. Tell him. Max gets very upset and decides to go to her. The house finds out from her why she is behaving like this with him. Alex confesses to him that the experimental medication has not improved her condition and her heart is enlarging rapidly, and in just a few more days she will die, and because of that, she does not want him to get attached to her. But Max does not give up and asks her to come with him to the school party. Alex is happy that he does not abandon her, and she agrees again. One day, she goes to meet him at home and gives him the costume that he will wear. At the party, she gives him a mask in the shape of a dog so that he can wear it at the party and he does not feel embarrassed because of the gauze on his face. When they go to the party, they spend a nice time and dance with each other. And then the music is calm, so they get close to each other in a romantic way. At that time, Alex feels stressed and her heart rate increases to the point that her nostrils bleed, so she goes to the bathroom and Max goes to stand with Dan, and at this time, Craig comes to harass them because he is jealous of Dan because he is related to his ex-girlfriend, and he also decides to take revenge on Max after the last situation that happened between them in the restaurant. At this moment, Craig's friends, Dan stands up and Craig goes to grab Max and remove the mask from his face. And then his girlfriend now sees him and dies. Then they call the police and Max is cut off. And they put a bag on his face so he doesn't accidentally kill someone else. When he gets in the police car, he sees the ambulance coming to take Alex, and Max spends the whole day in this cell, and on the second day, they release him and he goes to the hospital to visit Alex, and when her mother sees him, she hugs him all the time, and then he goes in to visit Alex and learns that she was lying to him about the truth of her illness because her medical condition would make her die in her teenage years, and she knew from the beginning that she was going to die, but she did not want to tell him enough. She has a few days to die and asks Maxie to show her his face so that she can die in peace. At that time, Maxie gets angry with her because he cannot do anything like that. Because he loves her, he leaves and walks and goes home and grabs a brick to disfigure his face, but his mother and father come quickly and stop, and Max suffers a nervous breakdown and continues to cry. He falls on his face and accidentally kills Yashin's cat. Days go by, and Max ignores all of Alex's messages. After a few days, he goes to the funeral of his beloved Dan, and Dan keeps yelling at him because he abandoned Alex at the beginning of her life, because she has only a few days left to die, and Maxie is early the next day when he goes to visit her. The hospital goes and hangs up all the paintings he made and the purest handkerchief he embroidered for her. Then he notices that her condition is getting worse, so we sit next to her on the bed and he asks her to close her eyes and remove the gauze from her face. Then he opens his eyes and I find Alex opening her eyes and looking at him. The strange thing is that she didn't die and was very happy. She saw him to the point that her heart could not bear all these feelings, and she died at that time, but at least she died happily. After a while, he goes to her funeral, completely devastated, and then he goes to the bridge, puts a bag of envelopes with her name on it, and throws him into the river as Alex asked him, and he hates her wish, and after a while he returns. Max goes to psychiatric treatment, and Baker goes alone to the nursing home to continue his love's journey and spend his time with Esther. The police drop all charges against Kirk and Max because none of them are at fault in the girl's death. Max's condition became very famous, and he continued to receive messages from many people asking him to help them and kill them in order for them to die in peace. Max understands that death is sometimes necessary and goes to visit the people who send him letters in order to relieve them of their torment. Max discovers that Alex did not die when she saw him because she loves him from her heart, and love gave her immunity against death, and that is why Max's father and father do not die when they see him, because they love him unconditionally, and because Dan is his only friend and he loves him. Max removes the gauze from his face while sitting with him, but one day the door bangs and Max forgot to put the gauze on. When he opened the door, he was surprised by the presence of Craig and died as soon as he saw Max's face. And here we have reached the end of our movie. Thank you for watching. See you in new summary movie.